Let's take a look at the key issues that came out of the meeting after the minister spoke to community members in Diepsloot. I'm joined by Colette Letojane, Executive Director at Human Rights Institute of South Africa. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. As we perhaps take a look at what came out of the meeting that was held by Ministers of Police and Home Affairs, they are pretty confident that some level of calm has been restored as they leave Diepsloot. They have put in some contingency measures. What's your assessment of the manner in which it's been handled?
The manner in which this whole process is being handled, we still feel that it's short of human rights approaches. Human rights approaches in terms of respecting the human dignity of all people in Diepsloot, regardless of whether they are South African or foreigners. The importance of protecting the sanctity of humanity has become very, very vital now that we've even had a murder that was blatantly committed right in front of the children, in front of everyone in the society. Carrying of a passport or documentation, that is something that we fought against. If you remember the Sharpeville massacre, the massacre that has its attribution to our human rights a month and our human rights day, it's something that we do not want to see ourselves regressing and going back where enforcement of past laws, is reinstated in an environment that promotes human rights. Harassment of people, intimidation starts with that. And these are the tactics that could even lead, to wild-scale bloodshed, because we can see the anger in some of the people that feel that they're affected by crime, and crime is, performed. The main culprit of the criminal activities has been labeled as Zimbabweans or foreigners. So we are calling for the society, the civil society, and the communities, and the faith-based organization to continue engaging police and other stakeholders that have got, expertise, that have got human rights, programs to educate communities about how to coexist, how to respect one another. We do not believe that all the crimes that are committed by Zimbabweans only or foreigners. We believe that there is crime activities that are taking place at large scale, probably because there has been lack of response, negligence on part of law enforcement, on part of state institutions that are responsible to engage the citizens. Things like service delivery, we know high employment is also one of the major problems, and people living in squalor and degradation in conditions that are so inhuman that things like rubble, things like pollution, things like sewers that are not maintained. People do not even have proper sanitation. We know that there will be more than 60 or so people in a community sharing an outside a toilet, which is not even having proper infrastructure for running water. So these are a situation whereby as a community neglected, left, to suffer on their own for many, many years. Now they are having this kind of a problem. And we are still hopeful with South Africa's frameworks like international people of African descent, which promotes the economic, social, and cultural rights of persons of African descent and encourages member states to do away with prejudices, to do away with activities that boil into violence or that brings intimidation, conflicts like where we are now. We would like to see such programs being rolled out in the communities. And the anger...
If you allow me just to interrupt you, as you speak about some of the elements of intervention that you'd like to see, what does this now mean? I mean, we've had the Home Affairs Minister, Dr. Cele and Motsoaledi, speaking about saying that this situation is not an issue of documentation, it's an issue of criminality. And he says in his interactions with the community leaders, they've come to that conclusion. And then on the other end, you have Police Minister Cele saying, saying it very clearly, that they are after criminals, not foreign national criminals per se, but criminals in general, irrespective of nationality. What sort of tone do you think that sets in now ensuring that relations between locals and foreign nationals are repaired?
We need to see consistency in terms of what is said in the meeting, in the public platform, in reconciling the community there, based on the fact that others are not wanted because they happen to be foreigners and they are blamed for all manner of problems that have been taking place in the community. The consistency is in terms of why have we even seen others demanding that police must exercise that duty, they must perform that duty of searching people and expecting, documentations to be produced. So we know that we have people that do not have such documentation. Yes, if they are talking, they say that they're genuine about not, focusing more onto documentation, which has been the main issue that we have experienced since the beginning of the year, that searches have been conducted to determine whether people belong here or they are from foreign countries, and then also are they legal in the country. So these are the things that Home Affairs has got must find its way in terms of building its capacity to deal with people that are in South Africa that are seeking asylum, to address their issue, and then those that are committing crimes, not only to be singling out, to be targeting certain nations in our midst, in our country or in our community, but all criminals, everybody who commits a crime, definitely they are expected to be arrested, and it should be done in a manner that is stipulated in our laws. No one is above the law. They should exercise that right in a proper manner where people will be prosecuted, and everyone, and we also want to see the harmony in communities whereby they live together, they address their own problems, they are able to engage with the police, and the police are not always coming in with tear gas, coming in, to cause more harm and harass people. The manner in which some of them have been interrogated, it really leaves a lot to be said, that we really have xenophobic attitude. We are angry, we are upset by the problems that are not necessarily caused by foreign nations. We do have our own problems. We should not be seen to be, singling out people and deviating the real issues that affect us in South Africa, where we are. The number of people that are in the country, yes, there are many, but there is no way that we are having problem of unemployment, mainly because we have employed many of them. Some of them are unemployed. They are working as informal traders. They are surviving on the side streets, on pavements, selling some goods there on the street. So we really need to begin to tell the truth. The truth will help us to move forward, to address the crime, to address all those syndicates that most of them have been allowed by us. We have been key in accommodating some of the crimes, and actually us employing them, because people are vulnerable, people are in need. So this is what we really want to see. We want to see consistency, and the politicians desist from hate crime, hate speech actually. Hate speech, fuel hate crimes. The way you speak the promises that you are making, like it has been done from November, that if you vote for me, I'll be able to address. This is not the problem that we are facing. We all know where our problems are.
Absolutely.
It is not what we are trying to depict, to paint in these communities that are impoverished or neglected for many, many years.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for weighing in, for your input there. Colette Letlojane, Executive Director at the Human Rights Institute of South Africa, speaking to the situation and the dynamics in Diepsloot after the Ministers of Home Affairs and Police, as well as Gauteng Premier David Makhura, have gone in to speak to community members, of course, keeping a close eye on the situation in Diepsloot. They say they're confident that everything has now been calm, has now been restored. Of course, it's a community that we will continue to keep a close eye on.